Breaking right now on Denver 7 News at 6. A local police department plagued by controversy will soon be looking for a new leader.
Sources tell Denver 7 Aurora Police Chief Vanessa Wilson plans to resign. I'm Veronica Acosta. What we've learned about her departure after less than 2 years as top cop.
Plus, President Biden is at an emergency NATO meeting in response to the Russian invasion. Their efforts to end the war entering its 5th week today.
And a 10-year-old girl praised for her bravery. How she was able to get her siblings to safety after a thief stole a car with them inside. Wow. Proudly wearing that pink badge now. I love it. She has a great story about how she stayed so calm. Coming up, good morning. I'm Nicole Brady.
And I'm Brian Sanders. Good news on the weather front. After making it through the snow and the wind yesterday, things will feel much more like spring as we head into the weekend. We have a warm-up on the way, Lisa.
It is going to be gorgeous. I'm going to be your favorite person this weekend. Right now, the winds have really calmed down, anywhere from 5 to about 10 miles per hour. It'll be a little breezy today, nothing like what we saw yesterday, though, and those winds now shifting out of the west and southwest, so it's going to get a lot warmer, too. In fact, this morning, we have some neighborhoods right around 40 degrees. You'll find mid to upper 30s at the bus stop this morning. Sunny and cool to kick off our Thursday, and again, a lot calmer. By the time your kids are getting home, we're going to be in the low 60s by that point, then hitting highs right around 65 to near 67. So it's going to be a pleasant day up and through the foothills, and you're going to find an Evergreen 57, Bailey 53, Estes Park this afternoon 50. So this is pretty nice. It's warmer than what we saw earlier this week, but it's nothing compared to what we're going to see Saturday and Sunday. I have a look at your big weekend warm-up coming up on the Super 7 Day in just a few minutes.
A pretty typical drive for most of us here around town, and you can see from the north side of town, Air Tracker 7's right over I-25, looking at 84th Avenue, which would be right in here. There's 88th Avenue. Here's the Thornton Parkway here, and 104th back that way. So the southbound side looks really nice. Just starting to see that traffic bunch up right around 84th. It's just the merge in here, the hill climb, and then that downhill. It's just that it's a combination of a few things that slows us down every morning through there. Take a look at the transit issues that we have this morning, including the A-line. These are all A-line trains that are not going from Union Station. We've had a bunch of them this morning because they haven't had a second operator available on those trains to go from downtown to the airport or from the airport back towards downtown Denver. So they run about every 15 minutes. So it's about every half an hour they've been not running here this morning. Take that into account if you use that out there to the airport. Over at Santa Fe and Bellevue, looks like they've already removed that crash, which is good news. Otherwise, a nice quiet start to most of the commuting anywhere you want to go on and off the highways. No other major issues right now.
Well, we are following breaking news this morning of a major shakeup for the Aurora Police Department.
Now, sources tell Denver 7 Chief Vanessa Wilson plans to resign within a few weeks. Our Veronica Acosta is here with what seems to be driving the decision now.
Well, 3 high-ranking sources confirmed to Denver 7 investigator Jennifer Kowaleski just that. Pressure has been mounting against Aurora Police Chief Vanessa Wilson. Sources say she's lost the confidence of her officers, but despite being told the chief plans to leave her position soon, the terms of her resignation, those are still being negotiated and they remain fluid. Chief Wilson became the interim chief back in 2019. That was after the former chief, Nick Metz, retired, and it's been a tumultuous time in the department since then. By the time Chief Wilson took over, public trust in APD had already dwindled. The death of Elijah McClain in 2019 and the drunk driving scandal involving Officer Nathan Meyer had already come to light by the time that she took over. In August of 2020, Aurora PD detained and handcuffed a black woman and several children because they thought they were in a stolen vehicle. The vehicle they were in was an SUV. Police should have been looking for a motorcycle. Chief Wilson apologized for that. Last year in February, Chief Wilson fired 3 officers who posed for that photo mocking the death of Elijah McClain. Later, Colorado's Attorney General announced charges against the paramedics and the officers who detained and injected him with ketamine. And then in July of last year, Denver 7 spoke with Chief Wilson about the uptick in crime and the loss of officers, which was at a record high last year. In 2019, Aurora PD had 52 officers leave the department. In 2020, 87. In 2021, 126. And so far this year, 10. That does include resignations, retirements, terminations, deaths, and transfers. In October, the Aurora Fraternal Order of Police passed a vote of no confidence that was 442 to 16. Chief Wilson is the first woman to hold a position with APD. She's been with the department for 25 years, and we did reach out to the city of Aurora for confirmation on all of this. They told us they would not engage in, quote, speculative conversations on any personal matter. In the studio, I'm Veronica Acosta, Denver 7.
Thank you, Veronica. It's been years for that department to try to regain its footing. We expect this story to develop over the next 24 hours, and we'll be staying on top of it to bring you anything we learn on air and on thedenverchannel.com.
You're taking a live look now at the NATO headquarters in Brussels, Belgium. President Biden is taking part in an emergency summit with allies on the war in Ukraine. The president posed for a group photo with world leaders earlier this morning, but he did not speak with reporters. Right now, the NATO nations are discussing how to respond if Russia uses chemical weapons. White House officials have said it's increasingly likely they'll do so as Russian troops are being beaten back by the smaller Ukrainian forces. Later, President Biden will meet with other G7 leaders to announce more sanctions against Russia. Today marks exactly 1 month since Russia invaded Ukraine, and we're getting new drone video showing the devastation in the coastal city of Mariupol. Ukrainians are fighting back. The Pentagon says they've pushed Russian forces back 34 miles outside Kyiv. ABC News is reporting that eastern Ukraine is littered with the charred remains of Russian tanks. NATO estimates up to 15,000 Russian soldiers have been killed in the month of fighting so far. Ukrainian hospitals are losing critical supplies to the ongoing attacks.
A group in Colorado is preparing to send medical supplies to the region, though. Denver 7's Jessica Crawford joins us this morning. Jessica, you spoke to a Ukrainian woman who is doing everything she can to organize the aid.
That's right, and her message to Coloradans is that right now there is no act too small when it comes to helping the victims in Ukraine.
Life-saving supplies ready to be packed up and shipped out to a country under siege.
It's horrific to even think of what they do and what level of terror and genocide my people going through.
Marina Dobrova arrived in the U.S. in the 90s. Ever since then, she's done all she could to help her home country with the group Ukrainians of Colorado. When Russia began to attack Ukraine, she wanted to do more.
All the pictures of cities which I remember as being so beautiful and happy, full of life, and now they're all in shambles, they're rubble. It's unimaginable.
One of the country's greatest needs, medical supplies. This week, volunteers are needed to help get these supplies to Ukraine.
Russians cut the supply, humanitarian supply. They refuse to open humanitarian corridors, or they let people leave those occupied cities and then they just shoot them in the back.
As we know, many hospitals have been bombed and people do not have medical supplies.
Does every little thing count in this situation?
I think every little thing counts in everything we do. You know, there's hundreds of millions of Americans, and if we all do something, it really adds up.
That support, Dobrova says, is needed now more than ever.
It's unimaginable situation some of our brothers and sisters are going through.
And volunteers will start packing up those medical supplies today. You can still volunteer to help tomorrow at the Project Cure headquarters in Centennial. I do have a link at thedenverchannel.com to the website where you can sign up to help out. Live in Denver, I'm Jessica Crawford, Denver 7.
Thank you, Jessica. Speaking of helping any way you can, the Denver Zoo is launching a fundraiser to help zoos in Ukraine. Donations can be made online through the zoo's Wildlife Emergency Fund. The zoo says it will work closely with the Global Zoo and Aquarium Associations to make sure donations go to groups, animals, and staff members that are in most need. Lisa, looking good as we head into the weekend.
Yeah, great zoo weather. Get outside. This morning, a beautiful wake-up forecast. We're going to see low 50s here as early as about 10 o'clock, and then low to even mid-60s by early afternoon. Denver's going to hit a high of about 67 today. We've got some pretty good patio weather here for at least the next 4 to 5 days. I'll show you just how much warmer it's going to get coming up.
It sure has been a quiet drive here this morning. I'm not seeing any significant problems north, south, east, or west. You can see the drive out on I-70 over by Central Park, the westbound side, the eastbound side. We're moving along okay, but it is starting to get a little bit busier here as well as in some other spots around town. So we'll take a look at those drive times coming up in just a minute.
Well, for years, Denver was home to the latest and greatest outdoor gear. Well, a major convention is leaving and packing up for Utah. How it's responding to boycotts from REI and other top companies.
Plus, lawmakers are looking at a plan to give you an allowance for gas each month. And Madeleine Albright is leaving an amazing legacy behind. Her connections to Denver coming up.